All right, welcome to Valuable Coaching. We're lucky today to have Kara Hill with us, and Kevin's going to tell us a little bit more about her.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you guys to Kara Hill. She is the CEO and owner of My Recruiting Solutions. She's been doing it now for 11 years. And one thing I can tell you out there is she is so well connected to all the coaches at the Division I, Division II, Division III on the women's side, men's side, and even the beach volleyball side. So, do you have anything else to add with your bio? It's great to have you on the show, by the way.
Thank you. I'm going to have you come introduce me in all my gigs. This is great.
Nice.
This is awesome. Yeah. No, I think most people know me as V-ball recruiter. I would say that that's probably how most people know me. I have quite a following on TikTok at this point. I'm crushing the volleyball game on TikTok right now. Awesome. And then Instagram, we post tips and content of our kids and all kinds of stuff. So it's really awesome.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of the content on your kids on Instagram, and it's really cool to see. It's just really cool to see people playing volleyball right now. So, what do you have coming up right in the near future, volleyball wise?
So tomorrow I'm hosting a recruiting showcase at T Street Volleyball Club, and that's in Irvine. So I feel really blessed and really fortunate to have such a great relationship with those guys. They've been awesome. And so we've broken it up into multiple sessions to ensure social distancing and things of that nature to keep the numbers low, but so grateful to be back in the gym. And then I'm partnered with Pratte Volleyball, and we're hosting showcases all over the country over the next few months. So several qualifiers, President's Day weekend. There's normally a tournament in Washington, D.C. called the Capitol Hill Classic, and they actually got moved to the World Congress Center in Atlanta. And so we're hosting a showcase there. It's the last weekend of February, I think. That one's the most interesting. You actually have to COVID test before you travel there. And then when you get there, they're doing rapid testing. So that one I think has been the most intense in terms of ensuring safety. But it's been, incredible to just see the kids playing again, be back in the gym, getting content. I feel really blessed right now to be in that position.
Yeah, and you mentioned COVID, and one thing that we've always talked about in the past is, I kind of specialize in the boys college recruiting. You obviously do the boys, the beach, and the girls, and you do a really good job at it. Is the $1 million question I get all the time is a recruiting coordinator worth it? And what I tell every family is I go, if you have a really good one, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, it's all about building relationships. It's all about when that coach says, hey, should I really take this kid? And you go, you should take him because this, and this. And I've seen you in action. You only take clients that you believe in and you think you can find them at home, which is great. But could you go over the importance of maybe the value of a recruiting coordinator right now in COVID, because coaches aren't allowed to watch right now. They can only watch on film. And now a bunch of these seniors in college are staying on their programs and not losing a year of eligibility. I would think a recruiting coordinator would be that even much more valuable. Could you go in depth on that?
Yeah. So one of the things that I love about our game and our sport is the community. We're in a relationship business, and there are so many incredible people that we're just blessed to be surrounded by. And when you take the social aspect out of the game, so when you think about it, normally we would go to a tournament and our coaches would be there, and you coach at a fantastic club, super well connected, right? But normally you would have that opportunity to socialize with those college coaches and be able to go out and, let's face it, we go to the bar, we hang out, we talk about kids, right? Then we get back in the gym the next day. And that is a special part of the business that, we all love. And one of the reasons it keeps us all around this game. And so when you remove that aspect, I think you've really thrown a curveball at club owners as a whole that now aren't running into folks that they would normally see to be able to say, hey, you've got to come over here to see Jack, or you need to come look at, Julie over here because she's fantastic. We've lost all of that. And so what I have found is not only the recruiting coordinator being such a vital role in this process, also the ability to learn how to sell yourself and to run a compelling marketing campaign, because you need those college coaches who are getting upwards of 200 to 300 emails a day. You need them to open your email. You need to capture their attention. And then you need your video to be able to shine. And the reality is, whether you're, fortunate enough to be playing in a position where you're actually playing and you're able to get film or not, you better figure it out. You got to find a way to get content, and you've got to find a way to tell a compelling story to get somebody's attention. So I will tell you that we're spending way more time on the creative marketing side of teaching these athletes how to sell themselves over the phone and be able to sell themselves via email.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's got to be hard. And I know in talking with the coaches, a lot of them talk about liking to be able to come to practice and see people practice as well as play in matches. So, I mean, in California, at least, there was a good chunk of time where people couldn't even be practicing. So how have you gone about packaging some of those recruiting videos that you're able to send out so the coaches can get the content they need to know what the player looks like?
So I have a volleyball court on the other side of this wall, and I opened up my court in April, to be totally transparent. So we opened up, we had families that were begging to be able to get in the gym. So we started with skills videos for kids that were living locally. Then we were creating content. Sam, who works for me, she was a college coach for 20 years before she joined my staff. She was drawing up practice plans for families who, we have a family that lives in Arkansas, and they were having trouble getting into a court. And so she drew up a practice plan for them out on the grass. They put up a grass court. They bought one on Amazon. They put out that content. So we were teaching kids all the different kinds of ways that they could get film content. They were meeting up at parks and setting up those nets. And that was one of the things that we had talked about. So fortunately, Sam was able to draw up a lot of practice plans, give people a lot of feedback on what they could be doing. People that were living locally were able to come into our court, use our court. And then I'll say that slowly but surely, I think in Southern California, primarily in Orange County, the clubs here really bound together. And I'll say Viper as well in the Inland Empire. They're in Temecula, and they led the way. T Street led the way. Troy was amazing at, getting people together. Ojan, I know Brennan stepped up. They all kind of came together, and it was like, we need to keep these kids going. We need to keep our businesses going. And people just really fought to make this happen. So I feel like, in Southern California, we were fortunate. Northern California is a mess right now, and they're still shut down. Like, they're not all returned back to practice at this point. Oregon and Washington is, not in a great place right now. They've been shut down since March, and a lot of those athletes haven't been back in the gym. So then there's other places in the country that have been open. So it's a really, really interesting time, but there's a lot of empathy for these athletes that haven't been able to compete. And you're seeing the ones that have been training are definitely continuing to go up in the skill set, and the kids that haven't been in the gym are way behind.
Yeah, that's tough. I love hearing that you were able to get some of those kids to go get a grass net and figure out a way to do it, because that's how I've had to run my club kind of that way. I didn't have the resources to go find a facility, and there's certainly a way. We had one of the coaches show us a meme of kids playing, over a fence, and like, if you got a ball and you got a barrier, you can play the game. So that's great advice for any of those kids who are trying to find a way to get out there. So that stood out to me.
Yeah, to kind of go back to the recruiting aspect, just to plug in real quick, is I think when people think recruiting originally, at least on my end, when I first start thinking recruiting, I think of like, oh, the Pitts, the Nebraskas, the Arizonas, the UCLAs, the Cows, which isn't wrong. You can get recruited by them for sure. And you are connected to those coaches without a doubt. But one thing that I thought, I had the luxury of shadowing you for a weekend in Vegas and just kind of watching you work. The amount of Division II coaches, Division III coaches, and the idea that you could go up to a student athlete, watch her for maybe 5 minutes and go, bam, I know where she should go. And then you just go to work. And I think that sometimes people, when they're thinking about a recruiting coordinator, they're like, oh, I need to get my daughter into a big, Power 5. It's like, no. This company could help you get into Laverne, Cal Poly Pomona. They can help you get into an Ivy League out on the East Coast. It just, your connections are insane. And you mentioned that it's all about relationships, and you do a good job with that. And I think that's why I think a recruiting coordinator is valuable, but you have to be really good at relationships and you have to work your tail off, because you and I both know recruiting coordinators that don't do those two things. And then I think it's a waste of money for parents.
You can't big time anyone. You don't know if the coach at a junior college program is going to end up to be the Nebraska coach one day. You have no idea. And so what I have found is treat every relationship like they're gold. We wine and dine everybody. I don't care where they come from. It's irrelevant. This is a people business. And I genuinely just love people and love being around people. So I think that's probably the most fun part of the job, and maybe the area that I've missed the most, I think, through COVID.
Would you argue, and I don't know, but would you argue that a recruiting coordinator is just as valuable or more valuable for like a Division II or III athlete? Because you take like a Nebraska or Illinois, yeah, they get thousands of emails, but they got like 10 athletes that they're looking at, and they're going hard at them. And yes, they'll listen to you when you go up to them and say, hey, this is one of my clients, she's legit. But, you take like a Minot State, in one of the Dakotas, they literally are probably looking at 2,000 kids, because that's what they have to do. And then if you can help them kind of navigate and go, hey, by the way, I have a kid that I know is a good fit for you, I know is willing to go to your school, and look at this. Would you argue that someone that wants to play at that level, Division II or III, it's just as valuable to enter your program?
So what we focus on, yes, I think it's valuable for anybody. And let me explain why. What we do is we're not just focused on your next 4 years of playing. We're focused on the next 50 years of your life. So if somebody comes to us, in Southern California, when somebody comes into the office, they'll say, if we ask them, okay, so, what schools interest you? Everybody says the same schools: UCSB, Pepperdine, USC, UCLA, right? Stanford, like these are the schools that they just throw out. And they really don't understand athletically what it would take to compete in those programs. So we start breaking down, what are you looking for in your college experience? What is it that you want to study? Do you know what you want to study? Do you have something in mind? Have you done an internship? We talk about the bigger picture, and then we focus on, what are the family goals? So for mom and dad, how much are you willing to invest in your child's education? And is there a return on investment there? So if your, daughter wants to become a physician one day, and you've got to go into a rigorous health sciences program, there's not a whole lot of volleyball coaches that are like super pumped for you to do, bio or health sciences, at least at the Division I level. But we then focus on, okay, mom and dad, so what are you in for here? Like, are you paying $10,000 out of pocket? For club, most of our families are investing $10,000 to $15,000 a year. So that doesn't really change your lifestyle. Is $30,000 a year going to hurt you? Where do you stop? on what you can invest. And some families will come to us and they'll say, Kara, we've been blessed, 70,000 a year is not a problem. Some people say, hey, listen, we're trying to stick with UC pricing. That's what we focused on. So we're good at about 33. So I could look at a player who could be a very good volleyball player, who could play in a lot of places, but know that, maybe their goal is to be in that $30,000 a year range. And knowing that they're going to go to medical school, maybe I'm recommending, hey, you should call Peter Green at Rhodes College, because at that particular school, you'll have a Division III experience. It looks like Hogwarts. It's a phenomenal education. It's ranked one of the top 50 programs in the country. And in addition to that, when you go to med school, you get to stay in Memphis. A lot of athletes go directly into medical school at University of Tennessee, and they have a Memphis location. So if you're somebody that doesn't like change, this might make a whole lot of sense for you. And then you've got in-state tuition and, all these benefits. So what we do is way different than what other recruiting services do. We're really focused on the big picture. How much do you want to spend? Have you looked at a budget? Are you taking on loans? If you are, have you seen what compound interest does to these loans? Can you afford to do this? Does your kid want to do something that's actually going to get you a return on investment? And that's what we focus on. And we're really passionate about that, because what we don't want to see is these athletes go to schools and, get their education. And, I love social work, don't get me wrong, but if you want to go into social work, you don't need Harvard, right? So mom and dad don't need to drop $75,000 a year for you to go to Harvard for you to be in social work, because you're not going to see the return on investment there. So that's kind of the point of what we do, is just talking, just common sense, and really talking about life practices, everything from, interviewing. We help the kids with knowing, how to answer questions. We role play with them. If you can sit there and tell a kid exactly what they should be saying on the phone and feel like they've taken good notes, and then you could say, okay, put your notes down, let's talk. And, you could try and have that conversation, and they stutter all over themselves and they fail at the conversation and they just don't do well. So we just take it to a whole other extreme in terms of like, let's practice what you're going to say. Hey, I don't really like that. Let's pivot and adjust here. That sounds selfish. Like, let's bring compelling questions that make you stand out in this interview. So that's what we do. It's just a little different than I think what others say a recruiting coordinator would do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, coming into this, I didn't necessarily know. I mean, I had looked at your website and read through it, and this comes across on that. But when I first heard recruiting coordinator before looking at that, I probably kind of had the idea of, that guy who's going out and is, calling a couple schools for you, but is really trying to kind of, you pay me a little bit, I'll give a little bit back to you, and we'll just try and get you a place. But this sounds so much more of a whole person kind of approach, because to me, I just think of like, well, if this was one of my boys that needed this help, I don't want somebody pushing them to a school that's not going to be, like you said, helpful for them after the fact. I think there definitely are so many athletes that go and they just major in communications or business, and those are just so general. And I think it's easy to go, yeah, I want to play, but that's great that you're giving them this path that lets them see that, hey, you know what? Yes, you should go find this college because it's going to actually have what you want and it's going to prepare you for it. And yeah, that there are Division III and II. And I've tried to push certain players to go to junior college too. Just so they get an opportunity to keep playing, and especially some of the ones that maybe are, at a spot where it's like, hey, you could use a couple more years. You might really come into your own. You might not, but you're going to get a play. So might as well check it out. But I love the whole person approach, and those life skills of being able to have conversations and answer questions and interview. Even if they end up not playing volleyball at all, you've given them a set of skills that they have that will take them a long way.
We hope so.
Okay, this has been a great section of this interview. We continue tomorrow, and Kara talks a little bit more about how you're really building a brand and trying to sell yourself to these schools, and you're trying to create a positive brand that then you carry on past
just this recruiting phase and into college and then into your job. And so again, she has this kind of holistic approach about how she approaches her athletes. It's not just about getting them to a school as quickly as possible. It's about finding the right fit. So come back tomorrow. She's got a lot more great information. This is really valuable stuff, not only for players and families out there, but also for coaches and club directors to know that this is something that's valuable out there, that they have this as a resource, or they can start trying to implement it into their clubs.
Hey, if you're looking for some great clothing, new logo, you need a great combination, go to onestoneapparel.com, onestoneapparel.com. They made us this awesome logo that fit better onto a great polo shirt, hoodie, and they got all kinds of different materials that you can choose from. So again, check them out, onestoneapparel.com. Email Dave at onestoneapparel.com. Let him know Valuable Coaching sent you. Hey guys, if you're looking for a cool new volleyball out there, check out Holo Gear. It's holographic balls, and they got also holographic clothing. It's really cool. If you take a look here, you can see, looks black and then it kind of glows in the dark. Very awesome gear. Check them out. Use our coupon code ValuableCoachIn. That's ValuableCoachIn, and get 15% off.